For many decades, Tomorrowland has struggled to live up to its name, fatefully foiled by its own theme and stuck in a continuous race against time, as tomorrow becomes today and today yesterday. But now, systems are online, the grid has powered up, and digitization has begun. We can now ask the question, does TRON Lightcycle Run solve Disney World's Tomorrowland problem and rekindle the spark of a future, or does the land of tomorrow look more antiquated by comparison? And well, let's dive into all of that up next. Hi there Waltoneers, I'm Jack and this is DSNY Newscast, and today, this isn't just going to be another TRON Lightcycle Run rollercoaster review, but instead, I want to approach all of this from a slightly different angle. As after I experienced this ride, I had this one burning question that kept going round and round in my head, and that is, was it worth the wait? And there's two ways to answer that question. First, from the perspective of was it worth the wait of the 90 minutes or so that you're going to wait in line to then go on what is a very short roller coaster. And I can tell you that after having experienced it numerous times, I would undoubtedly say yes, it is worth the wait to go on it. As despite the whole ride being over within 2 minutes, and the time from launch to the end of the ride being even shorter than that, as it measures as exactly 60 seconds of actual roller coaster time, I would still say that the unique quality of riding on a light cycle combined with the exhilaration that comes from the 0 to 60 miles per hour launch is definitely a fantastic experience that will have you buzzing as you exit. And besides, it's not like this is the only short launch coaster at Disney, as Rock and Roller Coaster is only 70 seconds of on-ride time and people are never disappointed by that. So in terms of waiting in line to go on TRON, I don't think you'll end up regretting it from that standpoint. But then we come to the second way in which you could answer this was it worth the wait question. As was it worth the 5 painstaking years of construction to build just this one singular attraction? As after all, construction did start all the way back in February of 2018. Which means that this project has taken 1,818 days from start to finish. Or to put it another way, 2,617,000 minutes. That's how long it took to build TRON. And that's just for construction time, whereas the amount of time between the announcement and the opening day is actually closer to 6 years. Which, believe it or not, theoretically, if a child was born on the same exact day as TRON was announced all the way back at D23 Expo in July of 2017, then that child now would actually be tall enough to ride the roller coaster on its opening day. And I'm not just emphasizing this point just because I think it's funny, but Disney took longer to construct TRON than it did for them to construct all of Magic Kingdom from 1967 to 1971, or the fact that TRON's budget was approximately in the range of $250 million to $300 million. But I think it's important to bear all of this in mind when we ask the question of was it worth the wait? And honestly, I know this is likely to be controversial considering it's about to open and people are excited. But after all the hype dies down and there's been a few years, in hindsight, I think that the answer to that is no, it probably wasn't. And my reason for that is that this singular attraction has been built as an expansion that doesn't do much in the bigger scheme of things to help rejuvenate the rest of the land or solve the Tomorrowland problem. And for those unfamiliar with what the Tomorrowland problem is, it's something that has plagued the concept of the land since Disneyland first opened in 1955. And that is the indisputable, unavoidable, inevitable fact that one day tomorrow will be today. Which means despite Imagineers' best efforts to create a land that is timelessly devoted to showcasing the cutting-edge advancements that tomorrow may bring, the future will always become the present, thus rendering it more of a today land, or even worse, a yesterday land. Which ironically, that yesterday idea is what led Disney to successfully circumvent the Tomorrowland problem altogether in Disneyland Paris. As with the creation of Discoveryland, it was themed to the 19th century Jules Verne science fiction vision of the future instead, which meant that Disney could avoid trying to make realistic predictions of what the future would be that would inevitably end up being out of date. But there is another way to create a more timeless version of Tomorrowland, and that's not to focus on the technological advancements, but instead focus in on the overall feeling of futurism. As when you think about it and you distill Tomorrowland down to its three simplest design elements, its unique architecture, dynamic lighting and sound, and an omnipresent kinetic energy found all around. And yep, you guessed it, all three of those things are brilliantly brought together within the TRON Lightcycle Run area that evoke a sense of futurism. To the point where I literally spent hours of my annual pass preview just wandering around and soaking in as much of the incredible atmosphere and ambience as possible. And the reoccurring thought that just kept coming back was, this is what Tomorrowland should be. Which is no great surprise, as after all, the lead Imagineer on this attraction, Scott Drake, designed this originally for Shanghai Disneyland as part of a new vision of what Tomorrowland should be for that park. So it makes sense that it feels like it belongs to a completely different Tomorrowland, because it does. And what makes this all the more apparent is the new expansion area is tucked out of the way, and so it feels disjointed, like you've just crossed over a threshold into a Tron land instead, which by comparison makes the rest of Tomorrowland appear a little dull, antiquated and hokey. And so despite Tron pulling more people to this side of the park because it's the latest and greatest attraction at the Magic Kingdom, the lack of integration and impact that Tron has on the rest of the land has potentially made the Tomorrowland Problem more noticeable. And so holistically speaking, it probably wasn't worth the wait. But just imagine for a second, if Disney had not just cloned this attraction from Shanghai, but instead took the core design principles and then applied it in a unique way to Walt Disney World's version of Tomorrowland, they could have solved the Tomorrowland problem once and for all. As I think we can all agree, that one of the best things about TRON Lightcycle Run is the incredible ambience and atmosphere that is created by the LED canopy. But imagine if this wasn't just for the attraction, but instead it covered the entirety of Tomorrowland, connecting together both sides of the buildings in the entry walkway, and then radiating on out from the central point of the Astro Orbiter and the People Mover platform. And because of the footing technique applied to the canopy, it would provide much needed shade and respite from the scorching Florida sun during the daytime, and it would also bring a whole new level of vibrancy and life to all of Tomorrowland at night. And another reason why I think that this would have been so much better is that it would also have fixed Tomorrowland's terrible drainage issues. As from my experience, Tomorrowland has always been the worst land to be stuck in at the Magic Kingdom when it rains, with it flooding way worse than any other land. And if you're wondering about the logistics of the canopy being large enough to envelop Tomorrowland, well, the TRON canopy was designed in partnership with British design firm Grimshaw Architects, who also designed and developed the Eden project in Cornwall, which uses the same exact material as that of the TRON canopy, but on a much larger scale, 3 times the size of Tomorrowland. And then for the TRON coaster side of things, after seeing Universal building a dual racing coaster within their central hub of their upcoming Epic Universe theme park, I can't help but think that it would have been so much better if the TRON coaster had been designed to race around the rooftops of Tomorrowland, weaving in and out and swooping overhead, bringing yet another layer of kinetic energy to the land, combined with the People Mover and the Astro Orbiter as well. And then this way TRON wouldn't be a roller coaster inside of a dark building right next to another roller coaster inside of a dark building, and would have instead kept Space Mountain as something special, and not competing with Space Mountain to be the icon of Tomorrowland. And the beauty of all of this would have been that Disney wouldn't just be marketing a single attraction, but instead a whole new revitalized Tomorrowland. A bit like what they did with New Fantasyland's advertising campaign, but this time around using the tagline, "A new Tomorrowland today." But obviously none of that has happened, and unfortunately now with TRON opening at the Magic Kingdom, any hope of a true revitalization of Tomorrowland will likely now be pushed back even further. As at the end of the day, logically speaking, Disney has spent upwards of $250 million to build TRON, and they'll end up seeing the attendance bump increase as a result of that, which will make them think that Tomorrowland is now fixed and they can turn their attention to building new lands at the back of the Magic Kingdom instead. And so go experience Tron and soak in as much of that atmosphere as possible. If not for the only reason being is to have a small taste of what a great, big, beautiful Tomorrowland could be, as a proper revamp still remains a dream away. But now it's over to you, Waltoners. I would like to know, what are your thoughts and opinions about the TRON Lightcycle Run attraction, if you've been able to experience it so far, and also what would you do to fix the Tomorrowland problem once and for all? And if you've enjoyed this video for today, then be sure to give this video a massive thumbs up. Check out the rest of the videos on the channel, and with all of that being said, I've been Jack, you've been you, and I'll see you real soon.